Peter Greene was the kind of actor you didn't need an introduction for. The moment he showed up on screen, you felt it. There was something in his eyes, something heavy, something real. He wasn't playing characters. He was living inside them. For a lot of people, he wasn't a household name, but his face, his presence, unforgettable. This is the story of a man who didn't chase fame, but left a permanent mark on Hollywood anyway. Born in Montclair, New Jersey, Peter Greene grew up far from the bright lights of Los Angeles. His early life wasn't glamorous or easy. He came from a working-class background where survival mattered more than dreams. As a kid, he was intense, emotional, and different from the rest. Acting slowly became his escape, a way to express feelings he didn't always have words for. It wasn't about fame back then, it was about staying sane. Before Hollywood noticed him, Peter struggled hard. He bounced between small jobs, endless auditions, and constant rejection. Casting rooms were brutal, and opportunities were rare, but there was something about him that directors couldn't ignore. He had this raw, street-level energy that felt authentic. He didn't look polished, and that was his power. He looked real, like someone you might actually meet in real life. Everything changed in the early 1990 seconds when Peter Greene started landing roles that put him on the map. His big breakthrough came when Quentin Tarantino cast him in Pulp Fiction. Playing the character Zed, Peter delivered one of the most disturbing and unforgettable performances in the film. It wasn't flashy or loud, but it was deeply unsettling, and that's why people still talk about it today. That role locked his place in movie history. The same year, audiences saw a completely different side of him in The Mask, where he played Dorian Tyrell opposite Jim Carrey. While Carrey brought the comedy, Peter brought the danger. Calm, cold, and ruthless. He balanced the film perfectly and proved he could dominate the screen even next to a comedy superstar. In the mid-90 seconds, Peter Greene was everywhere, and it felt like his career was only going up. But fame has a way of exposing wounds instead of healing them. Behind the scenes, Peter was fighting personal battle. Hollywood pressure, mental health struggles, and substance abuse slowly began to affect his life and career. Opportunities started slipping away. Projects got smaller. The spotlight dimmed. For someone with that much talent, it was painful to watch. Peter Greene was open about his struggles later in life. Addiction wasn't something he was proud of, but it was part of his story. He didn't hide from it, and he didn't pretend to be perfect. Instead, he kept trying to rebuild. He took roles in independent films and smaller projects, not for fame, but for the love of acting. To him, performing wasn't a job, it was survival. Unlike many Hollywood figures, Peter lived a quiet lifestyle. He wasn't into flashy cars, luxury mansions, or social media attention. People who knew him described him as private, thoughtful, and deeply emotional. He carried pain, but he also carried kindness. He wasn't chasing headlines, he was chasing peace. Financially, Peter Greene never reached blockbuster-level wealth, but he did okay. At the time of his passing, his estimated net worth was around $1 to $2 million. For a character actor who never played the safe route, that was respectable. But his real value wasn't money, it was influence. He inspired actors, filmmakers, and fans who appreciated real performances over perfect ones. Peter kept his family life out of the public eye. He was never publicly married, and there are no confirmed records of him having children. That privacy wasn't an accident. He wanted at least part of his life to stay untouched by Hollywood. In an industry that consumes people, that choice says a lot. At the age of 60, Peter Greene passed away. Official details about the exact cause of death were not publicly confirmed, and authorities stated that no foul play was suspected. Instead of focusing on speculation, fans and fellow artists chose to focus on what mattered: his work, his impact, and the moments he gave us on screen. When the news broke, tributes poured in. Fans shared iconic scenes, filmmakers shared memories, and movie lovers talked about how Peter Greene made them feel. That's the kind of legacy that lasts. Not awards, Not box office numbers, but emotion. Peter Greene was different because he didn't play it safe. He leaned into the dark, the broken, and the uncomfortable. He showed us characters that felt real, even when they scared us. And in doing that, he showed us pieces of himself. His life reminds us that talent doesn't guarantee peace, fame doesn't equal happiness, and sometimes the most powerful art comes from pain. As the years went on, Peter Greene slowly became one of those actors people talked about with respect instead of hype. Film fans didn't argue about how famous he was, they talked about how real he felt. His performances aged well, especially in an era where audiences started appreciating authenticity over perfection. When people revisited Pulp Fiction or The Mask, they noticed something new every time. A look, a pause, a quiet threat in his voice. That's the kind of acting that doesn't fade. Peter never tried to reinvent himself for trends. He didn't chase superhero roles or reality TV fame. He stayed true to who he was, even when that meant fewer opportunities. That choice cost him mainstream success, but it preserved his integrity. In a business full of masks, Peter Greene stayed unfiltered, and for many fans, that honesty mattered more than box office numbers. What made Peter's story even more emotional is how relatable it was. He represented the struggle so many people face fighting inner demons while trying to keep moving forward. He wasn't pretending to be invincible, he was trying to survive. That vulnerability showed up in his performances, and people felt it, even if they couldn't explain why. His characters didn't just scare you, they stayed with you. His passing reminded people how fragile life is, especially for artists who carry so much inside. It sparked conversations about mental health, addiction, and the cost of fame, not in a dramatic way, but in a human one. Peter Greene became a reminder that behind every performance is a real person trying to make sense of the world. So, when you think about Peter Greene, don't just remember the villain. Remember the artist. Remember the fighter. Remember the man who gave everything to his craft, even when it cost him. Hollywood will keep moving. New faces will come. New stories will be told. But some performances don't age. Some energy doesn't disappear. And some names never really leave. Peter Greene didn't just act in movies. He left pieces of himself in them. And as long as those films exist, a part of him is still here. Rest in peace, Peter. Your story will always matter. Peter Greene wasn't perfect. He was human. And maybe that's exactly why he'll never be forgotten. His performances live on, his energy lives on, and every time his face appears on screen, a part of him is still here. Rest easy, Peter. Your story mattered.